Hi everybody, and welcome to the video for Dark Goddess Week. And for this week's video I wanted to come out into the shadows, to come out into the night, to do some filming. And I'm not using a tripod, so I do apologise if the camera gets a bit shaky. I felt it was important to be out in the dark rather than in artificial light, as we kind of miss the point of the Dark Goddess if we shine neon light on her. We go out into the soothing shadows, into the soothing, cooling air of night, and we look into that darkness and we hear the trees call us. And we see how at twilight, at the dark, at the night, how our energy shifts and how the energy of the world around us changes. How things we can easily dismiss in the light of day are harder to dismiss when night falls. And the Dark Goddess, is about embracing our shadows, embracing the night, as well as loving the day. And as we are all made of light and dark, and as nature embraces light and dark without deeming anything evil or bad or wrong, so do we walk this path this week with the Dark Goddess and embrace all that is in the shadows, accept it, love it, hold it, bring it to the light if need be, but allow it to be without trying to repress it. Our shadow is what Jung described as the things we've pushed down, the things we've pushed into the dark that we don't want to deal with. And these can be things that we've been culturally or family-wise told are wrong. It could be things that are seen as sinful or human urges that we don't want to admit are ours. Lust, greed, anger, wrath, jealousy, the lot, desiring things we shouldn't or we feel we shouldn't. And guess what? Every human being does. And so instead of being really hard on ourselves about getting angry or lusting after something, pushing it down and turning into some kind of bizarre fetish in a way, it's good to acknowledge it. And this is the week of the Dark Goddess, so we'll be acknowledging that none of us are perfect, none of us are full of light all the time. We are made up of both beautiful light and soothing shadow, and not to expect perfection of ourselves and to cut ourselves some slack. And that's the good work of the Dark Goddess. We expect our bodies to be perfect, our jobs to be great, our friends and sex life to be amazing, and we punish ourselves when that's not the case. So the Dark Goddess is all about stripping away those beliefs that are not serving us. We often see the world in good and bad, or we're often taught to see the world as in good or bad, good and evil. That's a good thing, that's an evil thing. And that's kind of a relatively new concept. I think our ancestors had a more holistic view, rather than separating everything in two. And so the Dark Goddess, being a feminine force of power and of the night, has obviously been cast down in the bad category, such as Lilith, the first wife of Adam, who was created as his equal, not from his rib like Eve, but as an equal, and the equal to man was cast out and called a monster. So we are not going to call things good or bad, because that's really not a helpful way of dealing with things. We're going to call things more what serves us, what does not serve us. And this Dark Goddess week is an amazing week to be held by the Dark Goddess and to clear out what does not serve us anymore, or at least to recognise what doesn't serve us anymore, and to love ourselves even if we're not ready to cast it out yet. The Dark Goddess will show us some things that may start to need shifting for you to move forward, like every moon wanes and becomes dark before the new moon appears. The time of the dark moon and the new moon is a time of the Dark Goddess, and it's a time of clearing and banishing. So if there's anything in your life you're wanting to clear out, now is the time, when working with the Dark Goddess, to call on her to help you. If you're actively working with your shadow in a respectful way, then the Dark Goddess is just amazing, so powerful, so deeply loving, so soothing, and will hold you through this process. If we're disrespecting this part of ourselves, hiding from it, or denying it, then the Dark Goddess may appear terrifying. So we project a lot on the Dark Goddess and say she is evil when it's actually just things about ourselves we don't want to see. The Dark Goddess can be Kali, Persephone, Ereshkigal, Inanna. I mean, Kali is known as the terrible mother, and that gives people to think, oh my God, she's so evil, but she's not. She brings death and she clears out so that we can be reborn. And that is the key to most of the Dark Goddesses. They clear out, they bring an ending, they bring closure, they bring death so that new life can come through. If nothing ever physically died or was transformed, we'd all be very static and very stuck. And imagine how awful the world would be if all the trees and the plants just rotted and didn't get cleared away, making way for new life. So the Dark Goddess has some very important work, both within and without. The Dark Goddess is the Morrigan, again a goddess that has been feared and have a lot of projections put upon her. I remember a time when I was told not to work with the Morrigan because it was too scary and too bad, but this is a sign of the times, and things have changed so much over the last few years that it's important to approach these goddesses with respect and with a bit of wisdom, but not to be afraid of them. And I hope that through this course so far, you've been through so many different aspects of the goddess. You are at a place where you can start the descent into the underworld to meet the Dark Goddess. So one of the most famous stories of the Dark Goddess is Inanna and Ereshkigal, and also of Persephone. And as like I said in the notes, Inanna of her free will descended to the underground, the land of the dead, deep into the earth. And she went with a little bit of arrogance. She went thinking she was amazing and she could cope with anything and she could charm her way probably through things. Though she did thankfully keep a little safeguard if she didn't return. And the powerful thing is on her journey to the underworld, as we saw in the notes and in the meditation, she was stopped at 7 gateways, and she was stripped of her ego, of her arrogance, of her responsibility, of her place, of her queenship, finally of her clothes. So she arrived naked into the underworld to be held at the court of Ereshkigal. And she walked there, and Ereshkigal was so angry that the goddess of the above world had come into her realm. She killed her and left her to rot, literally. And all hope was seemed to have lost until the gods intervened and managed to revive Inanna with bread and healing water. And she came back from that underworld journey, reclaiming her objects of power and of class and status and of herself, but coming back with the gift of compassion, coming back stronger, wholer, and as one. Now, hopefully our journey into the underworld may not be so awful and traumatic. However, trauma and bad things that inevitably happen in life from time to time throw us at the gates of the underworld and throw us into the court of the Dark Queen, the Dark Goddess. And we feel naked, and we feel that everything we believed in has changed, and it can be terrifying, and we don't know who we are. And even though that feels like this is the end, it is the end of one chapter, but like Inanna, we can be revived by the Dark Goddess, we can be healed, and we can come back wholer because we've been to those places. We come back wholer so that we can help other people if that's our calling, or that we can live our lives differently in accordance to what we've learned in the underworld, our own personal underworld. So yes, it's horrible, these things happen, and they happen to everyone, as you know, and we've all been to those places and we'll all return to them. But the more we connect with the Dark Goddess, maybe when we're not going through the trauma, the more when we are at those places, we'll feel her presence strongly guiding us, showing us the way, what needs to be cleared before we can come out of this phase and move through into a new beginning. What do we need to let go of? And sometimes we have to let go of some really hard things, but the more we connect with the Dark Goddess, the more we feel her love for us, our strong unconditional love for us, her willingness for us to heal, her willingness for us to transform and to become whole. No matter how much we cry and throw tantrums that we don't want this, she holds us through that, stroking our hair and saying, well, come on, keep going. Or just lie here for a while until you're ready to move forwards. There are many tales of the descent of the goddess, Persephone descending every autumn into the underworld. First of all, horrified to have Hades as her lover, but in the end, loving him and loving his underworld realm. Again, the journey of learning to love the shadow and to find such richness there, and to embrace that when the time is right. So this is our journey, and it's not going to take a week, but it's going to take longer. I mean, you may have been on this journey for a long time already. You may have knowingly or unknowingly be doing this shadow work, but don't be afraid of the shadow. Do what you need to do at your own time, at your own pace. So what I would say is, if you're in a bad place right now, or there's a lot going on and you're feeling quite stressed, and it's not a time to go through some heavy shadow work, because we can really beat ourselves up and we can get stuck in those bad places. Look after yourself, nurture yourself, connect with the dark goddess, but don't push yourself too hard. Whatever you're doing this week, keep up your routines of self-care, self-love that we learned in the Love Week. Keep up the boundaries, the healthy boundaries of the Warrior Goddess Week, and be treating yourself like the queen that you are. But know that some things will be taken as we go down to that underworld, just for a little while. Maybe the perception of who we are, maybe the ego, the feeling of I do this is my life, I love this person, this is my job. All these perceptions may be stripped from us for this time, and we'll take them up again when we're ready. But the dark goddess wants to know who you are when all that is taken away, and you want to know who you are when all that is taken away, so that when life does change, you have a strong basis to move forwards. So if you are feeling like doing some shadow work, maybe ask yourself some questions about what makes you feel angry, what makes you, who upsets you and why. Because often when we get upset by other people, we're actually reflecting our own stuff on them. We're actually reflecting our own issues on them. So maybe we're saying we don't like the fact that they're bitchy. Potentially that could be because we're hiding some bitchy feelings of our own. And maybe look at those things and say, okay, this is what annoys me about other people. Where am I hiding that? Where am I repressing that in myself? Maybe in the meditation, draw the reflection that you see in the mirror. Maybe you can do something, maybe make a collage, or draw something that represents your shadow self, something you saw in that meditation. Only if you feel ready, only if you feel sure. That can be quite a juicy experiment, to draw what you feel your shadow self looks like, or collage it out of magazine images or words, or write it down. And just please don't reject any part of yourself this week. We tell ourselves that we're not attractive enough, we're not powerful enough, we're not all these things, and that's another way of repressing ourselves, repressing the shadow. Accept yourself. We're all, no one's perfect. We're all beautifully, wildly, light and dark, shade, not doing everything amazingly well all times of the day. So really be gentle with yourself as you connect with this aspect of the goddess. I set some homework to do. Make a clay sculpture if you feel drawn to. That can be done at any time really, but if you want to create something which represents the dark goddess to you, that could be really lovely. Journal some stuff that comes up this week as well. That's really important. So anything that happens in the meditation, anything that comes up, anything that you are being shown you need to release, journal it and maybe start working on that release process. But most of all, be gentle with yourself. Maybe spend some time in the dark, in the shadows, in the night. Allow yourself the soothing cover of night. And call upon the dark goddess. She's not here to scare you. If you're working this path with respect, which I so know you all are, she's going to guide you powerfully through this process. And spend some time this week in quiet contemplation of the dark goddess. Meditate with her. Have some inner stillness and some inner quiet as you allow the shadows to come to the surface and to be seen and to be held. So I thank you so much for all your work, all your beautiful work. Also I made a tarot spread, a Shadow Goddess tarot spread. That can be really interesting to do. I found that really interesting as well to do for myself. maybe show us some things we need to release and what's holding us back. But again, I thank you so much for your work. I'm sending you all so much love and compassion, and I know you're all doing amazingly wherever you are on your journey. Take care, and I'll see you all really soon. Bye.